This just into CBS Sports HQ. Robert MacIntyre, Bobby Mack on 18 for birdie to win his National Open inside 20 feet, and he gets it to go. Jim Nantz said, "Great Scott," to finish it off, and definitely that. Robert MacIntyre, what a finish to the Scottish Open for him. Remember last year he got pipped at the end by Rory McIlroy. This year he was the one doing the pip, and Adam Scott was at the top. But Bobby Mack had an eagle late in the round and then gets the birdie here to seal the victory. He finishes 18 under par, one shot better than Adam Scott, cards a 3 under 67, and you see the emotion. He said he wanted to come back and win this one this year, given what happened last year, and he completes the job, gets it done. Redemption for Robert MacIntyre. He is the 2024 Scottish Open champion. Love to see those emotions, and let's get reaction from golf analyst and First Cut podcast host Kyle Porter. Kyle, what do you think about this? Certainly, what a finish for Robert MacIntyre. We weren't sure that he was going to be able to do it when we were looking midway through the round, but manages to come on late and get the job done.
Yeah, I'm kind of two minds here. You know, you're right, Jeremy. It didn't look like halfway through his round that he was going to seal the deal. It looked like Adam Scott. It looked like Ludwig. It looked like Colin Morikawa. It looked like a lot of guys before Bob MacIntyre. But then he gets going with a long birdie on 14. And then I think where it got kind of interesting, or it did get interesting, he tied the lead with an eagle on 16. And the reason I say I'm of two minds here, Jeremy, it's amazing that Bob MacIntyre won his home open, but he got a free drop on 16 that you'll see it right here. His ball was not in that place where he hit it from prior to getting a free drop from a sprinkler head. He was standing on a sprinkler head. Dottie Pepper actually said that the only reason he knew he was on a sprinkler head is because he had metal spikes on and he kind of heard the crunch of the spikes, which is kind of a hilarious thing. But obviously Bob MacIntyre did everything by the rules, by the book, everything else, but it just felt like it was not a drive, a hole, a shot that necessitated eagle. Like it was not that kind of hole for him, and he got an eagle out of it. So you can look at that one of two ways. He took advantage of a big break, or man, that's just a kind of a weird way to end the last 3 holes of a golf tournament like this one.
I've been saying all afternoon that he's the Florida Panthers of the golf world right now, because last year he gets there and then gets pipped at the end. This year, this is the one he had circled, wants to get back here, gets into the final group, and manages to get the job done. A little bit of redemption. And have to give credit to your podcast, one of your podcast partners here, Patrick McDonald. He picked Scott to win on the First Cut podcast on Saturday when him and Rick were recapping the 3rd round. But Kyle, given where he was in terms of his game, in terms of the mental aspect of his game before the Canadian Open to now, how big of a turnaround has this been for Bobby Mack?
Oh, it's been massive, and you look at even the last year, making the Ryder Cup team, even going back to this tournament, like you said, he probably, honestly, like if you just look at these two events in a vacuum, 2023 Scottish Open, 2024 Scottish Open, he probably should have won the 2023 until Rory got him at the end. He probably shouldn't have won the 2024, and that's just golf, right? But his turnaround, like you said, of going from just really mediocre to below average golf leading into the Canadian Open to now he's kind of had the year of his career by winning the Canadian Open, by winning the Scottish Open. That's just a massive couple months stretch there, going back to that Canadian Open. I thought that one was very cool with his dad on the bag. And this one, like you said, it's the one he told, or he said in his press conference on Saturday, hey, this is the one I want the most. Like I've not been shy about that. And then to go out and do it like he did on Sunday is, you know, the drop, the eagle, all that stuff aside is still an amazing thing.
And I'm not sure about the history here, but I mean, winning 2 national opens in one season, certainly that's a good accomplishment. And as I mentioned on the broadcast, he joined Sandy Lyle, who in 1988 was the only Scot to win 2 PGA Tour events in a single season. He now joins him there. Speaking of Scots, let's talk about Adam Scott. And Kyle, he had a great round. He had a great tournament. What are your thoughts on Scott and the disappointment for him here? Cards at 3 under 67, but certainly, you know, it's been forever since he won, but he really had himself in contention here and came very, very close.
Yeah, it's been over 4 years. I went back and looked. It was the 2020 Genesis Invitational, not the Genesis Scottish Open, different Genesis event there. But I thought it was an awesome week for Adam Scott. I mean, look, he's 40. I think he's 43, 44 years old. And he's going out against the Ludwig Obergs of the world, right? Who's 24, 25, and he's still contending. Adam Scott has had, to me, one of the more underrated careers of the last 20, 25, 30 years. You know, you look at him, you look at somebody like a Sergio Garcia who won the Live Golf event today. Those guys have only won one major championship apiece, but the careers that they've put together over such a long period of time it's kind of remarkable. We talk about this with Phil Mickelson a lot. To win and to be competitive really on the PGA Tour across a 30-year span is ridiculous. And Adam Scott's, he's not quite to 30 years, but he's getting pretty close. And he's done that over such a long period of time, which I think is a really impressive mark of a great golfer.
I think this was his 403rd event or something of his career, so a guy who certainly had some longevity. You mentioned Ludwig Oberg. He was, of course, golfing in that final group with Bobby Mack, and we thought that this was what was going to be the battle coming down the final 18 holes of this tournament. As it turns out, Oberg did manage to fall back. Kyle, in your opinion, what happened to him here in this final round?
Well, you know, it was interesting. He hit a chunky chip on 16 that you and I have hit a few times, probably, Jeremy. He looked a little rattled, and there was some talk of, you know, maybe that's because Bob MacIntyre was taking a long time. I look at it like this. He didn't play well in the final, I would say, round and a half of the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. Did not play well today. I mean, look at the par fives here. You look at the third hole, the 10th hole, and the 16th hole. The first 3 days he plays those holes in 9 under, and today he played them in 2 over. So that's a huge difference for somebody who really often takes advantage of the par fives. I think we have to start looking at kind of late in the tournament, final round Ludwig. It's not, you know, it's not a huge deal because he's still 25 years old. Here's that chunky chip that rolls back to his feet. That's tough to watch, but also very relatable as a weekend warrior. But I think we do have to start looking at, hey, what's going through his head? What's he feeling like in the final round, in the final 2 rounds of these big events that he's either leading or up near the top? And this is a very normal thing, right? It's abnormal to be Colin Morikawa and come out and close out tournament after tournament when you first get on tour. This is more of the path that most stars take is, man, got to learn how to close, got to learn how to play when I feel uncomfortable, when I feel different late in these tournaments. So the talent is there, the pedigree's there. I think the mental and emotional state is there. He's just got to figure out what he feels like and improve on that going forward.
Yeah, you wonder if we're getting to that point where he needs to win one just for himself, to get over that hump, to get that win, and then all of a sudden it'll start going. You just wonder if we're getting to that point where he just needs to get something going in terms of a win. Let's talk about Rory McIlroy here too. 2 under 68 for him, finishes 14 under T4. What is Rory focusing on this week as he now turns the page to head to Royal Troon?
Yeah, I think what he's focusing on is just getting back into contention. You know, he's going to spend the first 2 or 3 days at Troon just trying to get into that top 5 for the final round. And, you know, I thought this was I wrote this for CBSSports.com right before we came on. This is a really good connector round for Rory between the U.S. Open, which was not great in the final round, and the Open Championship next week. He needed this week to not exert himself too much by getting in contention, but play good enough golf to have confidence going into the Open Championship. He's been awesome at Open Championships over the last 5 years. It's really Rory, Cam Young, and Tommy Fleetwood that have been kind of your 3 or 4 best golfers, or 3 of the 4 best golfers at Open Championships over the last 5 years. And so I feel pretty confident that he's going to play really well next week. But man, Jeremy, I don't know that there's a bigger storyline than if Rory gets into contention, what's that going to do to his psyche? What's that going to do to his emotions? I think that's going to be the most fascinating of all storylines that we have going into Royal Troon.
It's certainly a storyline that we were following this week, keeping a very close eye on him in terms of how he reacted to certain missteps throughout the round. Before I let you go, Kyle, just want to ask you about Colin Morikawa. He also finished his T4, 14 under par overall, 1 under 69 today. Flirted with the lead early, 3 birdies in his first 6 holes, but then struggled on his second 9. How disappointing is this for Colin, given how his round started today?
Well, I think it's that, but I think it's also the year he's had to not get a win out of it yet is so disappointing, right? He's been kind of a 2.0 strokes gain guy throughout the year, which is, we talk about this a lot on the First Cut podcast. That's kind of a top 5 level player in the world. If you're gaining 2 strokes on the field, you're a top 5 player in the world. And that's and technically, it's been statistically the best year of Morikawa's career, and yet he doesn't have a win. So I think that has to. I don't know if it weighs on him, but it has to be frustrating at some point that you're like, man, I'm playing as good as I've ever played, and the wins aren't coming. The wins aren't coming. I think you have to continue to trust that they will at some point, and who knows? It could be a second Claret Jug next week at Royal Troon for Collin Morikawa.
Yeah, and it just shows you how deep the field is in terms of the golfers participating in these events this year. Our golf analyst Kyle Porter reacting to Robert MacIntyre winning the 2024 Genesis Scottish Open as he gets redemption and wins it this year. We're not done breaking down the big win for Bobby Mack. When we come back, we'll head out to North Berwick and join Trevor Immelman for his thoughts on what we saw Sunday.